Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining today's webinar, 10 Ways to Drastically Increase Lead Conversion, presented by Stephen Fairley. My name is Stephanie Phelan, and I'm a marketing manager at MyCase, and I will be your host today. I'd like to give you a few tips about participating on GoToWebinar. The webinar control panel is on the right-hand side of your screen. This is where you may submit questions and where you'll see polls come up throughout the presentation. Please submit your questions during the presentation and don't hold off until the very end. We'll save your questions until the end of the presentation, and that's when Stephen will answer what we've collected throughout the webinar. Also, please note that these slides, the remaining questions, and the recording will be available by end of day tomorrow on the MyCase blog, and it will also be emailed to all registrants. Also, the Twitter hashtag to follow the conversation is #LeadConversion. Today's webinar is hosted by MyCase, so before we jump into things, I'd like to give you a quick overview. MyCase is a web-based law practice management software that takes care of your daily practice requirements for calendaring, contact management, document management and templates, time and billing, client communications, custom workflows, and more in one solution at an affordable price. MyCase is priced for solo and small firms at just $39 per month per attorney and $29 a month per paralegal or support staff. We also offer MyCase websites for our customers. The cost to set up and build your website is only $500, and then there is a $50 per month maintenance fee. We use a modern professional design built for your firm. The websites contain social media and blog integration, and best of all, complete integration with MyCase practice management software. Now you and your customers can log in directly to MyCase from your website. Last but not least, we enjoy hosting educational events for professionals in the legal industry, and that is why we're all here today. So let me tell you a little bit about our presenter. Stephen Fairley is a law firm marketing expert, an international best-selling author, and the CEO of the Rainmaker Institute. His specialty is in developing lead conversion systems that help law firms generate more business and more revenue. He's been at this since 1999 and has worked with and coached over 15,000 attorneys. Stephen has spoken numerous times for over 35 of the largest state and local bar associations in the country. We are thrilled to have you here today, Stephen, and look forward to you sharing your tips with our legal professionals. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Stephanie, and I appreciate MyCase sponsoring this webinar. And thank you to everyone who is signed in and ready to go or listening to the recording of this. We have some great information to share with you today that could literally change the way that you practice law and the way that you generate more business and close more cases. So here's what I would recommend. I would recommend that you grab a pen and a piece of paper or something to write with or take notes with, that you turn your phone on vibrate, that you try not to multitask. Over the next 45 minutes or so, I'm going to share with you 10 ways that you can dramatically increase your lead conversion rate. It is so imperative that in these days, marketing is so expensive. Lead generation is probably one of the top 3 or 4 expenses that you have in your law firm, especially if you're trying to grow at a rapid rate. So everything that you can do to convert more of the leads that you're already getting can be a very, very powerful tool, because when you have a proven lead conversion process, then all of a sudden you want more leads because you can track where those leads are coming from. Here's what we've found. Since 1999, we've specialized in helping attorneys market and grow their law firms and develop more business and close more cases and turn more prospects into paying clients. The success or failure of your law firm this year will not be determined by the number of leads that you get. They will not be determined by the quality of those leads. The success or failure of your law firm this year will not be determined by the size of your average case or even your average cost per client acquisition. The success or failure of your law firm this year will be determined by 2 things: your intake department, how you actually answer the phone, and your ability to convert more prospects into paying clients. And I'm going to share with you 10 specific strategies that are proven to increase your lead conversion rate. So let me ask you, how good are you at intake and lead conversion? When I talk to a lot of attorneys, they think that they're really good at lead conversion. So let's start off this with a poll question. All right, so Stephanie, if you want to launch that poll, you should see this on your screen pop up, and I'd encourage you to answer it. So here's the question. Who answers the telephone at your office? And we've given you 5 different choices. 1, you have a receptionist or a paralegal that answers the phone. 2, you, the attorney, answer the phone. You're responsible for it. 3, you use some sort of an outsourced call center where you outsource your calls to someone else. 4, everyone is responsible for answering the phone. Whoever can get to it answers the phone. Or number 5, nobody answers the phone. We almost never pick up the phone and we just let it go to voicemail and call and talk to them when it's convenient for us. So take a minute and answer that, that poll question. Go ahead and do that right now.
Yep, that's great, Stephen. And it looks like the majority have answered the poll question, so I'm going to go ahead and close it out now. And I'll share the results. Okay, so the results are 43% have a receptionist or a paralegal to answer the phone. 39%, the attorney himself or herself answers the phone. And then a much smaller percentage, so 7% uses a call center, 8% everyone's responsible for answering their own phone, and then 4% barely answer their phone. So no one returns the calls. So is that about what you were expecting, Stephen, or does that come as a surprise to you?
You know, it really kind of depends. It depends on your practice area and also depends on the size of your law firm. As law firms grow and move from being a solo practitioner to having, you know, multiple staff people or multiple attorneys, they have to get more sophisticated because not everybody can spend tens of thousands of dollars or hundreds of thousands of dollars a month or a year on marketing and business development and advertising and so on. So they have to get more sophisticated in how they do it. It kind of surprises me that only, I think you said 7 or 8% use a call center in our sample size, right? I think that's what you mentioned. So, of course, you always have the, you know, probably the 4%, I think you said, almost never answers the phone. Now, maybe you were being funny, like we were trying to be funny, or maybe you're actually being serious, like I don't have time to answer my phone at all. Well, we'll address some of these as we kind of go through here. Now, when I talk about intake and lead conversion, understand that it goes way beyond using tracking numbers. I'm not going to get into the whole discussion whether you should use tracking numbers or whether it should be a local number or a toll-free number or whether Google likes or doesn't like tracking numbers. That's really outside the purview of this program. There is a lot of good information about there, and as you get more sophisticated, using tracking numbers is something that a lot of law firms do. It really starts with the initial contact of your law firm. From the very first moment that they pick up the phone and dial your number, that's when intake and lead conversion starts, and it continues on until they actually sign up as a paying client. Now, we've secret shopped over 1,000 law firms nationwide, the vast majority of whom are consumer law. So this will be a little bit different if you're a business-to-business attorney. But if you're a personal injury attorney, a bankruptcy attorney, criminal defense, family law, estate planning, workers' comp, SSD, we secret shopped over 165 law firms in this one particular survey. This was done a little bit earlier this year. Let me share with you some of the results. Out of 165 law firms, 90 of the firms answered the phone by identifying the firm's name versus saying, law firm, please hold. That's actually pretty good, not too bad. I'd like to see that be 165. I mean, after all, you spend a lot of time and money on branding your law firm and branding your name and thinking about your name, and you should actually know, people should actually answer the phone with your law firm's name versus the generic one. Only 52 of the firms expressed any type of interest or expertise in the area that we called about. So in other words, we would look at this law firm's website to determine their primary practice area and develop a scenario that of a good case, not a case that would be bare minimum, but let's say, for example, if it was a divorce case, it would be, my wife or my husband just served me papers, we have 2 kids, we own a home, we bring in 6 figures a year. It would be a good case, not I'm looking for free legal advice. If it's a personal injury or contingency case, it would be with broken bones, clear liability, we didn't cause the accident, so it would be a good kind of a case. We would pick up the phone and we would call them to see how they would actually respond to this scenario. So only 52 of the 165 firms expressed any type of expertise in that area that we were calling about. And we would give wide latitude on this. Like if they said something like, yes, we're good at that, or yes, we can handle that kind of a case, or we can help you, we give you credit. But only 52 out of 165. That's not very good at all. One of the common questions that I ask law firms is, how many leads are you actually getting? And most people, they say they can estimate. Most of you, let me just give you a tip, are actually getting more leads than you actually think you are. What do you mean by that? Well, out of 165 firms, 63% never ask for our name. 71% never ask for our phone number. Only 7 ask for our email address. So let me ask you, how in the world do you know how many leads you're getting if 63% of you are never asking for our name, 71% are never asking for our phone number, and 96% are never asking for our email address? How in the world can you actually track how many leads are coming in if nobody at your office is actually asking for contact information? It's pretty difficult to know how many leads you're getting if you don't have a name, a phone number, an email address, or any other way to track to see whether this is a legitimate lead or not. So this is completely unacceptable. If this was your law firm, understand that that means you may be actually getting more leads than you think you are, because nobody at the front office, nobody at the receptionist desk, nobody who's answering the phone is taking down basic contact information to be able to track those leads, and especially if they don't immediately turn into a case, to be able to follow up with them. This was very discouraging. 95 out of 165 of the staff members, when we asked, do you guys have a website that we could check out to see if, get more information or learn more about your attorney? 95% of the staff did not know the correct website address without having us to put us on hold without having to look it up. Are you kidding me? 95 out of 165? That's ridiculous, right? So only 65% of the staff showed any kind of compassion and any kind of empathy, or even tried to build rapport with us. This is really telephone answering skills 101. This is not advanced. This is not rocket science. That'll come a little bit later. This is basic phone etiquette. So when someone says, hey, I was in a car accident, saying something as simple as, I'm really sorry to hear that, or wow, are you okay? I'm going through, my car was just repossessed and my house is going into foreclosure. I think I need to file for bankruptcy. Wow, I'm really sorry to hear that. We can help you with that. Even something as basic as acknowledging someone's pain, acknowledging that someone is going through something difficult. Look, nobody calls your office because they're really having a good day. They're calling your office because they're in pain. They've already thought about, how do I solve this myself, and come to the conclusion that I need professional help, which means they're in way over their head. They're feeling stressed. They don't know how to cope with this. They don't know what the solution is, because if they did, they would have already gone forward with it. So acknowledge people's pain. Show some compassion. Show them that you're human, that you care about them more than just their money. 61 of the firms never even said thank you for calling at the end of the call. Now, in one particular case in this survey, we asked if they had a website I could look at, and the receptionist at the other end of the line said, no, he doesn't have one, but you can just Google divorce attorney and there are plenty of sites for you to look at. Are you kidding me? Really? Seriously? If this was your receptionist, would you be okay with that? No, of course not. They're actually encouraging us to go look for other divorce attorneys. How about this one? I was placed on hold for more than 2 minutes because the receptionist wasn't sure if they handle serious injuries, which was, we called up with a case of a motorcycle accident, which could result in an amputation of my leg. She returned after another 2 minutes and blind transferred us to voicemail, didn't take any of our contact information. Wow. So let me give you a couple tips. Number one, there is lots and lots of call center data out there that shows that the average person starts to hang up after 28 seconds. Any hold that's longer than 30 seconds is considered an abandoned call, because you're at high risk for hanging up the phone prematurely and doing what? That's right, dialing the next competitor, right, which Google makes it really easy to find. Returning after 2 minutes and just blind transferring you to voicemail, completely unacceptable. You would not believe how much stuff we hear and see in these secret shopper calls. One case, we said, we're looking for a divorce attorney. She said, well, it's $35 for the consultation and $2.50 an hour if we take the case. I wanted you to have that price just in case you're looking for other attorneys. Basically, she's inviting us to look for other attorneys. Another case, we asked the receptionist for a website. They put us on hold for a minute, came back, gave us the wrong website address. So clearly they went and looked it up. We looked up the website address, and guess what? It was for a competitor in the same building. Oh, wow. Oh my goodness, right? We later found out that that lady had been hired there about 3 years ago. Who knows how long she had been filtering off all the best cases and giving them to your competition. I left my contact information and asked an attorney to call me, but almost 2 weeks later, we're still waiting for a callback. How long do you think it's reasonable for a person to wait before they go on to the next attorney thinking, oh, well, I'm never going to get a callback? Typically, it's minutes, not hours, much less days or weeks. And I know that that can be kind of stressful for you, but we'll talk about a couple different ways that you can think about this. I told the receptionist I was referred to the firm by another attorney who said, I have a good case, but I really needed a great attorney. She said, I'm sorry, but we aren't accepting any new clients. What? So we asked the partner about this. He said, Stephen, I just attended your Rainmaker Retreat legal marketing boot camp for 2 days to learn how to get more clients, and now I find out my receptionist has been telling people we haven't been taking any new clients for the last 6 months because she doesn't want more work to do. You would not believe how messed up we see some of this stuff. Now, not every situation is terrible, but some of them, when we ask, why should I hire your attorney or why should I retain your law firm, some of the responses are things like, well, our attorneys are pretty good. Not really good, not amazing, but just pretty good. Or how about this one? I believe he has 20 years of experience, but you can go to the website and find out. Well, what's the name of the website? I don't know. It's not the firm's name, so I always forget. Or how about this one? Well, our attorneys seem to know what they're doing. Or when we asked one particular receptionist, why should I hire your law firm? She said, in a voice that was barely above a whisper, she said, I'm not sure I would. Oh my goodness, right? This is ridiculous, and this is going on all the time. It's almost, this is your director of first impressions. It's the very first time you have an opportunity to make an impression, a positive impression on this prospect other than your website or wherever they found out your phone number, and it has to be one that is really amazing to stand up and stand apart from your competition. Now, we score every single one of these secret shopper calls on a 10-point scale. One firm out of 165 scored 100. One, only one. The average score was 46. Now, I don't know what law school you went to, but I'm not really sure it matters. Any law school, 46 is not a passing grade. Understand, this is the money conversation that we're having, right? This is the money conversation that we're having. This is not a pie in the sky. This is, you paid for that lead. You actually did something, whether it was networking, speaking, search engine optimization, pay-per-click, pay-per-lead, whatever it was, to drive them to pick up the phone and call you. And your front office, your intake department, your director of first impressions messed it up 6 out of 10 times. That's not good at all. 90 firms in this sample scored below a 50%, 45 scored a 0. And unfortunately, some of the worst people at intake and lead conversion are solo practitioners and litigators. It's very difficult to do this. But if you want to go to the next level, if you're not satisfied with where you're at and you want to move to the next level, you have to be willing to dig into this and to fix your intake and to fix your follow-up and fix your lead conversion rate. So the question is, can you do better? Now, some of you listening to this right now are thinking, oh, well, we never do that. Oh, well, that's an exception. You want to find out? Here's how you can find out. I want to give this to you as an offer. This is completely complimentary. I want to offer to secret shop your law firm. What we'll do is we'll look at your website, and we'll determine your primary practice area. We'll call your office sometime during the next couple of weeks here, and we will pose as a potential client. And then we will take notes on the call. It's a very structured format. And then we will pick up the phone and call you and schedule a time to review your written report that says, here's exactly how you did, strengths and weaknesses, good, bad, complimentary. It's just our way of giving back to the community. So if you want to do that, go to this website that's listed on the screen as soon as we, either right now if you've got two screens or at some point, www.bit.ly, and because we can only take the first 100 people who fill out the form. Okay. Now, currently, most of you have some holes, you have some gaps, you have some issues in your lead conversion and your follow-up. Currently, this is what your intake and lead conversion probably looks like. It looks like a bucket with tons of holes in it, and you're losing money. You're leaking money on the table every single day because you don't know what's going on in the front office of your firm. And I understand, even if you're a small firm, that you're like, well, I sit right outside the receptionist office. She's right next to mine, or his desk is right next to mine. I know exactly what's going on. Well, are you there every single 8 to 10 hours a day every day, or are you in court? Are you working with clients? Are you taking depositions? Are you preparing for trial? Whatever it is, you have to know what's going on. So let me give you some tips, and let me walk through here. These are some very, very powerful tools. So make sure you take some good notes on this. Number one, practice the 5-minute follow-up rule. You literally have 5 minutes to follow up with a lead, or they are gone. Now, I'm not talking about a lead from the best friend that you got in law school who's been sending you clients for the last 10 years. No, that's not the person I'm talking about. The lead is someone who is, that would be a referral, and obviously you have more than 5 minutes to follow up with a referral, but that doesn't mean that you should take 5 days or 5 weeks to follow up with a referral. You should get to them as quickly as possible. But when you're generating leads, whether it's off the internet or pay-per-click or SEO or social media, or you're paying for leads, or you're doing networking events and leads are coming in, however you're getting your leads, you literally have 5 minutes to follow up with that lead, or there's a high risk that they're going to go to a competitor. In fact, there was a study done by Velocify.com. They surveyed over 400 companies who had generated over 3.5 million leads. What they found was amazing. It was stunning. They found that when your follow-up is 5 minutes or less, you have the greatest chances of converting, and when it falls below 5 minutes, your conversion rate literally drops like a rock. Your chances of qualifying an internet lead drops by almost 400% when your response time slows simply from 5 to 10 minutes. One other study by Leeds 360 company found that speed to call is the single biggest driver of lead conversion. The best, fastest, easiest way to increase your revenues this year is to convert more of the leads that you're already getting. You have to focus on this intake and lead conversion. I know that the 5-minute follow-up rule is difficult, but if you're committed to growing your firm, you have to be willing to do things that other law firms aren't willing to do. And that's why I say see rule number 2. Rule number 2 is never ever make an attorney or a paralegal responsible for following up. Don't do it. They won't follow up. They won't do it. I don't even care if you are an owner of the law firm. You won't do it. You'll find a way, you'll find a reason not to follow up with that person. Paralegals are some of the worst. They just are not willing to do it. And you say, well, wait a minute, my team is good, my people are great, they're committed. Yeah, but if a paralegal, and we've called hundreds of law firms where the paralegal answered the phone, and you can tell immediately that it's almost like we're interrupting their day, please get off the phone as soon as possible so that I can get back to my work. Well, the work of the law firm is to sign up clients and deliver a good quality service, and they just won't do it. Never, ever make an attorney or a paralegal responsible for following up. Now you say, well, if they're not going to follow up, who's going to follow up? Now, according to the survey that we took, I think you use about 7 or 8% of you are using outsourced call centers. I am typically not in favor of outsourced call centers. I can see exceptions to them, like handling calls on the nights or weekends or holidays, or when you're on vacation, or when you're just getting so much call volume that you just can't handle it internally. But you're almost always better off handling your intake calls in your law firm, not outsourcing it to someone who's generally being paid minimum wage, who probably can't get a job at very many other places because of whatever reason, and most call centers are not run that efficiently. I remember studying one client's data from a big call center that specialized in the law, and they were dropping 25 to 45% of every call that came in. Now, I want you to think about this. The client is generating enough leads that they're having an outsourced call center, one of the big ones that some of you would know if I mentioned their name, and I'm not going to, but that client was literally dropping a third to a half of their calls every single one. So 3 to 5 calls, if out of 10 calls, would be dropped. Like they would literally put them on hold so long that the person hung up and called your competition. It's just, you've got to be super careful if you're going to use an outsourced call center, and that's why I'm typically not in favor of it unless there's a really good reason. What I do prefer is that you train an existing team member to answer the phone correctly using the step-by-step Rainmaker Intake University system, which is some of the strategies that we're talking about here today. So the existing team member, I want this person to be a non-billable person. So it's not a paralegal and it's not an associate, because they will always come back to you with these crazy questions like, well, do you want me to answer the phone, or do you want me to work on Mrs. Brown's case because she's already called in 3 times and she's really, really upset? And the answer is yes, I want you to do both. But they won't. They'll always prioritize one over the other, and then you're stuck in the same place with nobody answering your phone in a timely, efficient manner. So train an existing non-billable team member to answer the phone correctly, and that is the best option. Now, when you get to 30 to 50 leads per month, that means you have to actually be tracking the leads. But when you're consistently getting 30 to 50 leads a month, I strongly recommend that you hire a dedicated intake specialist, a client intake specialist in your local office. This is not somebody that works from home. This is not somebody that's in the Philippines. This is somebody in your local office. I want somebody that I can walk over to them and say, hey, how come you haven't called this person back? Or, hey, call this person back immediately and set an appointment for me. Now, 30 to 50 is not a magical number. For some of you, it might be less. For some of you, it might be more. But somewhere around that ballpark, if you're getting a minimum of 30 to 50 leads a month, this person will pay for themselves in spades. Typically, if you train them right, they will pay for themselves within the first 30 to 60 days. Think of it like this. For most of you, if you can get this person in the office, you can close them. Your challenge is getting them in the office, right? So this person's job is to get them in the office, get qualified leads in the office. Now, typically, some attorneys, they struggle with this because this is as close to a salesperson as you will have in a law firm. You want somebody who has sold something over the phone. You don't want somebody who has a customer service mentality, because the last time you called customer service, you probably got put on what? Put on hold until it was convenient for them to answer your phone. That is not the kind of mentality I want. The person that it works best typically comes from a sales environment. I don't care what kind of things that they've sold, but they've sold something over the phone and they're not afraid to pick up the phone and call this person back and get them on the line. So hire a dedicated client intake specialist. This is typically somewhere between a $10 to $15 an hour employee. If you can't afford to do it full-time, start them out on part-time. Handle the busiest time of the day. So if a lot of your calls come in, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, hire the person for Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, and for part-time, and eventually make them full-time. Now, part of their job is setting appointments, and part of their job is setting appointments with qualified prospects, and we'll talk about that in just a minute, but the appointment has to actually show up. Now, some of you don't have problems with no-shows, but if more than 2 out of 10 people that set an appointment with you no-show, then you have a no-show problem. So I want 100% of your prospects that you set an appointment with show up, whether it's a phone consult or whether it's an in-person consult. I very much favor in-person consults whenever you can get them. We'll talk about that in just a little bit here. But give them a performance bonus incentive for every appointment who shows up to the appointment. Setting appointments doesn't make you a dime. You actually have to have an at-bat and have an opportunity to close the deal. Now, this performance bonus is typically 10, 15, 20. The most I've ever heard was $25, depending on how much or how little your average client value is related to you. Okay. Now, we have another poll question here. So, Stephanie, if you want to open up the poll, here's the question that we want you to answer. When a lead comes in and you're not able to get to it immediately, so it goes to voicemail, or maybe it comes in via live chat or a form fill out or an email, whatever it is, how many times do you or your staff usually call back a lead? Once, twice, 3 times a lady, more than 3, whatever it is. So go ahead and answer that poll question right now. How many times do you or your staff usually call back a lead, assuming that it goes to voicemail or it comes in as a live chat lead via email or a pay-per-lead lead, or some other way where you're not picking up the phone and talking to them directly? How many times do you call them back before you stop calling, you know, to see if they actually qualify and to do some sort of a screening over the phone? Once, twice, 3 times, more than 3 times? Go ahead and answer that right now. And Stephanie, are the results coming in yet?
Yes, they are, and it looks like the majority has voted, so I am going to go ahead and close the polls and share our results. So 34% call back once. 44%, so that's our majority in this poll, call back twice. And 14% said 3 times, 8% more than 3.
Okay. So thank you so much. So let me give you a tip. And some of you aren't going to like this, but it doesn't matter, because I'm not here to be your friend. I'm here to help you grow your business, and sometimes that means telling you the truth, even if you don't like to hear it. Every single lead should be called back a minimum of 6 times before giving up. Every single lead should be called a minimum of 6 times before giving up. Now, that means if you get a hold of them on the second call and they don't qualify, you don't keep calling them, right? These are for the people that you don't get on the line because it goes to voicemail, or they're at work, or they don't answer their phone, or whatever it is. But every single lead should be called a minimum of 6 times before giving up. What? Are you kidding me? Yeah, and here's why. Less than 8% of you are actually doing 3 or more times, which means the majority of you doing are once or twice. I think it was somewhere around 70, 80% of you, if you combine those two, are doing 1 or 2 callbacks, which is very standard in the legal industry, which is why so many attorneys are not converting at the as high as possible. On average, we want to see our clients converting somewhere between 38 to 42%, depending on their practice area. It could be higher, it could be lower. Now that means out of 100 leads, not consultations, but out of 100 leads that you get, you're converting somewhere between 38 and 42%. Now, most of you, the average consumer law firm is converting somewhere between 5 and 15%. What? No, I get every case that I want. No, you don't. No, that's a fallacy. What you're telling me when I hear that statement, I get every case that I want, that typically means that of the people who call in that I actually talk to and get back to, that answer my phone, that meet the criteria, that stop into my office for a consultation, and then I want their case, then I get them. The problem is you're measuring the wrong number. You want to measure the number, that how many leads you're getting, not how many consultations are showing up to your office. Because what we found is that people fall through the cracks. There are 5 stages of lead conversion. Number 1 is how many leads come into the top of the funnel. Number 2 is how many of those leads actually turn into appointments. The average consumer law firm drops about 50% right off the bat, from number of leads that come in to number of people that actually set an appointment. Number 3 is how many of those people who set an appointment actually show up. Number 4 is how many sign up at the initial consultation. Number 5 is how many sign up later on down the road. So call every single lead 6 times before giving up. If you do this one thing, you will absolutely convert more clients. In fact, here's my piece of advice. You want more money right now? Right now, like in the next week. Here's the easiest way to do it. Call back every single lead that has contacted you in the last 30 days that didn't hire. Call back every single lead that has contacted you in the last 30 days and didn't hire you, whether they didn't show up for an appointment, didn't set an appointment. Call every single one, unless they clearly have you have clearly disqualified them. So call them all back. I bet you will find you will convert 2 or 3 of them right off the bat, because they called a bunch of attorneys and none of them have ever called the attorneys have never called them back. And so they're literally hanging out there not knowing what to do, and you can swoop in and you can seal the deal just by calling people back. I'm telling you, I've seen it happen over and over and over and over again. Number 8, stop trying to close people over the phone. Stop it. It doesn't work. It is not very effective. The only way you should try to close people over the phone is if they are so geographically removed from you that you are unable to go to them and they are unable to go to you. And I'm not talking about a short drive across town. I'm talking about they're in a different state or in a different country, or they're more than 2 or 3 hours away from you. If you can get people into your office, you will always have a higher closing ratio. Stop trying to close people over the phone. There are 3 goals for every call. And you need to drill this into your head and drill this into the head of anybody who's answering the phone or doing consults for you. There are 3 goals for every call. Number 1, assess the quality of the lead versus DNQ. Assess the quality of the lead versus does not qualify. You have to at least at some little minimal threshold of qualifying the lead. Now, I've seen law firms that do a lot of qualification, and I've seen law firms that do a little qualification over the phone. You can grow a law firm doing a lot of qualifications, like 20 questions, and I've seen law firms that do so little qualification that you got a pulse and a paycheck, you're coming in, and sometimes you don't even need a paycheck, right? I have seen both law firms use different models, and both of them have worked. But the one who qualifies the least amount over the phone tends to grow quicker. They grow faster. Why? Because sometimes people don't tell you the whole story over the phone. Sometimes they want to meet you face to face. And if you can drive them to meet the minimum level of criteria and get them into the phone, they say, well, I don't want to spend all my time with tire kickers and people just looking for free advice. Well, look, you can have some basic criteria, some basic questions to get rid of those tire kickers. But a percentage of those, if you qualify too much, a percentage of them, you will disqualify over the phone, whereas if you could have gotten them into the office, you probably would have signed them up. So assess the quality of the lead versus DNQ. Number 2, show compassion, build some rapport, show some empathy. Don't treat them like they're at a drive-through window ordering French fries and a hamburger. This is a painful situation they're in. Show some compassion. Connect with them as a human being to a human being. Show them that you care. Number 3, set the appointment. It is not to close the deal. Stop trying to close people over the phone. Set the appointment. Get them into the appointment. So here's I think our last poll question. Do you charge for a consultation? Do you charge for a consultation? Stephanie, if you want to open that up. Yes, always, no, never, sometimes, it depends. This is a tricky area. Now, there's some practice areas like contingency-based where you never charge for a consult. There's some where it seems like it's divided, family law, criminal defense. Some do, some don't. There's no right or wrong here. I just want to get a sense of do you charge for a consultation? So have a lot of people responded to that yet?
Yep, the majority of people have voted, so I'm going to go ahead and close it, Stephen.
Okay.
And here are our results. So, do you charge for a consultation? 9% said yes, always. Our majority is with 50% that say no, they never charge for a consultation, and 41% said sometimes it really depends on the situation.
Yeah. So, for those of you who put yes, always, I would consider looking at option number 3. Sometimes it depends. So, for example, like if you say, well, I charge a $300 consultation fee because my hourly fee is $450, so I'm giving them a discount, whatever it is. What if your best friend referred you a client? Would you waive it? Well, sometimes you should, right? Because I understand the whole purpose of charging for a consultation fee is to get rid of the tire kickers. But there are other ways, other than charging for a consultation fee, that you can get rid of the tire kickers and qualify them or disqualify them over the phone. A little bit outside the purview of this, but we talk about that in depth at our Rainmaker Intake University. So understand that when it comes to quoting fees over the phone, I'm not talking about the consultation fee, because if you do charge for a consultation fee, then you need to disclose that over the phone. But other than that, you should never quote prices over the phone. Stop quoting prices over the phone other than your consult fee. So don't say, well, we charge $250 an hour, or we charge $3,000, or it'll be a $7,000 retainer fee. Stop it. Do not quote prices over the phone. If you have ever been shopped on price and you capitulate and give them the price over the phone, all you're doing is encouraging them to shop you on price. You're just encouraging them, so cut it out, stop it. And it doesn't convert. It just encourages people to look at you like all attorneys are the same, I want to go with the lowest one. It doesn't allow you to build value into the relationship. You need to make sure that there's enough value in the relationship where people are able to see the kind of benefits of working with you, the results that you've achieved for your clients, the value that you bring. Nobody likes being shopped on price. And third, it reinforces how you're exactly the same as everyone else. So let me give you a quick tip before I move on here. If someone is, and we get these questions all the time, right? The attorneys do. How much is this going to cost? Here's one of the ways, and there are many different tools that you can use to answer this question, but one of the ways is, well, let me ask you, Mr. Prospect, is price the #1 factor in your buying decision? Is price the #1 factor in your buying decision? You should write that down. That's exactly what you should say, word for word. Is price the #1 factor in your buying decision? Market research shows that there's an 80-20 rule going on here. 20% of people will say yes, it is the most important thing. 80% of people will say no. So let's go with the yes. If they say, yes, it is the #1 factor in my buying decision, then you come back and say something like this: then we're probably not the best fit for you because we're not the cheapest attorneys in town. However, if you'd like the names of the cheapest attorneys in town, I'd be glad to give them to you. Why would I give them to you? You may ask. Well, I'm glad you asked. Because they mess up their client cases so bad that more often than not, the client actually comes back to us and pays us more money to fix the case that they screwed up. Because you can't buy an attorney based on price alone. If 80% of the time they'll say no, and they'll say no, price is not the #1 factor, and then you ask them this question, well then what is? And right then and there, they're going to tell you exactly what you need to do to sell them. Whatever comes out, they're going to say, well, I need this done by next Tuesday, or I want to make sure I don't go to prison, or I need to make sure that, that I recoup, that I get Social Security coverage, or I want to make sure that this divorce is amicable, or I want to make sure that I save my house because it's where I raised my kids. Whatever it is, they're going to tell you what to do to sell them so that you can customize that presentation and tell them how you're going to solve their problem. Not give them legal advice, but say, yes, we can help you with that. Or I had a client who was in a very similar circumstance as you, and this is what happened. This is what we did, and this is what happened, right? So you can tell them a case study. Stop quoting prices over the phone. I'm not talking about the consultation fee, but I'm talking about giving away your prices. Don't discuss flat fees. Don't discuss, unless there's only one exception to this, and that's the contingency base. If you're a personal injury firm, it's 33 across the board. That's fine because every place they call pretty much is going to give them 33%. Okay. Number 10, track conversion rates for appointments by phone versus in-person appointments. Now this is very, very instructive. So pay attention to this. So this is a family law firm, I believe it was, in Denver with 5 attorneys, and we work with all kinds of attorneys, from commercial litigation, intellectual property, all the way to every kind of consumer practice out there. So this family law firm in Denver had 5 attorneys. In this particular month, they had 92 leads that came in the door. 92 leads that came in the door. 65 of them set an appointment with this law firm. 55 showed up at the appointment, so that's 85%. That's pretty good. And 7 hired at the initial consultation, the IC, and 6 hired later, which gave them an initial a conversion rate of 24%. Okay. Now, that particular month, 15% of their appointments were by phone. So follow this: 15% of their appointments were by phone. 89% of those appointments showed up, which is a little bit higher than their in-person, but 0 hired at the initial consultation, 0 hired later. Now, I'm not telling you that phone appointments never convert, because I've seen it happen. But for this law firm, phone appointments didn't convert. They had a much, much bigger conversion rate if they showed up in person. So our recommendation was stop doing any phone appointments, sign up 15% more clients per month. Now, Understand that this varies by practice area. I get that, and it varies. If you're an immigration attorney and your client's in Florida and you're in California, you're never going to meet face to face. But if there's any way humanly possible you can get them to come into the office or you can go visit them, you will always have a higher conversion rate. Stop making it convenient and start making more money. I understand it's not convenient for you to get up out of your chair and get in your car and drive to the client's office or drive to their house or whatever it is. I understand it's not convenient for you to have to work after hours because they work 9 to 5 and they want to come in for an appointment at 5:30 or 6 o'clock. I understand it's not convenient for you, but if you want to make more money, sometimes we have to do things that are not convenient for us, especially when we're trying to grow our practice, right? And especially when you're the only person that can close the deal because you haven't trained anybody else to do that for you. So understand there is a strong bias, and there's a growing amount of research out there that shows us that phone consultations convert at anywhere from 1/3 to 80% less, depending on the practice area and depending on the people doing the consultations. But we have never seen a firm that actually closes at a higher rate over the phone than they do in person. Never. We've never seen that. So have a strong bias in your firm. If right now you do consultations over the phone versus in person and you let the client decide, stop it. Choose for them. Say, we do consultations in person. Make the phone consultation a last resort. Now, I know I'm coming up on just a couple minutes left here, and then we're going to try to save a little bit of time for questions, but I have a bonus one for you. Now, this is for some of you out here who have multiple people doing initial consultation. Some of you, only the partner, especially if you're, of course, if you're a solo practitioner, you're the only one doing the initial consultation probably. But if you have more than one person doing the initial consultation, we have seen huge variations in terms of who can close. So this was a criminal defense law firm that had a strong DUI practice. They had 4 associates and 1 owner of the law firm, and they were sending the associates and having them do the consultation. So Jay, and I've changed the names to protect the innocent here, so Jay, he had a 20% conversion rate, and these are real numbers. I didn't make these numbers up. This is actually from a client that we have. So Jay was closing at a 20% conversion rate at the initial consultation. So 1 out of 5 people that walked into the door with Jay and did a consultation with him hired the firm. Nobody hired him later, and we thought, well, what in the world? That's kind of strange. Normally we see a little bit of residual there, and then we thought, oh, you know what? It's DUI. They have to make a decision really quickly. So, hey, maybe nobody hires DUI attorneys after they leave the office. If you don't hire them right then and there, they're going to walk out the door and never come back. And in fact, we saw the exact same thing with Jeff. Jeff was converting at 20% at the initial consultation and 0 hired later. So we thought, aha, we have a pattern here. And so then we looked and we found Will. And then we were like, wait a minute. Will's converting at 17% at the initial consultation and 17% after the initial consultation. So something's wrong here. But then we found Tom. Tom is a rock star. He's converting 40% at the initial consultation, and another 40% after they left the initial consultation would hire Tom. Unbelievable. So he was converting at literally 8 out of 10 people that walked into the room with Tom were signing up for the firm. We were like, oh my goodness, that's incredible. That's a huge variation. So based on, and here's what we found out. Unfortunately, they were round robining the leads, which means, Jay would get one, then Jeff, then Will, then Tom, then Jay, then Jeff, then Will, then Tom, so just kind of round robining the leads. And so our recommendation to them was this: stop giving any consultations to Jay and Jeff, give all of their consultations to Tom, and based on their average client value and the number of leads that they were getting, they would earn an extra $60,000 a month without spending a dime more, without spending any more money. They were able to generate an additional $60,000 a month, which is $720,000 a year. Unbelievable, without spending a dime extra on marketing. They were already getting the leads, and all they did was turn their eye on how to convert more of those leads into paying clients. It is the fastest, easiest way to do this. Intake and lead conversion are critical to your success. How much money are you losing right now because your intake is messed up? How much money are you losing right now because you don't have a process? You don't have a step-by-step system. You don't know what your people are doing to answer the phone. You don't know how they're treating your people because you've never had anybody secret shop your staff. You don't know what's going on because you're in court, you're in trial, you're taking a deposition, you're working with a client, you're working on a case matter, you're on vacation. You have no idea what's really going on. You need to focus on the critical steps of improving your intake and your lead conversion. Lead generation is one of the most expensive ways to double your revenues this year. Lead conversion is one of the most efficient and cost-effective ways to double your revenues. We have seen law firms literally double their conversion rate in 90 to 120 days. Now, that is not typical, but we have seen that happen. When you double your conversion rate in 90 to 120 days, what happens? Well, at least theoretically, assuming that your average case value stays the same, it doubles your revenues. It doubles your cash flow. And as one of my mentors taught me early on, cash flow solves a lot of problems, and lack of it causes even more. You can double your lead conversion rate in a matter of months. We've seen it happen over and over and over again. It's pretty difficult to double your number of leads that you're getting in a couple of months, unless you're willing to spend a lot of money. Stop throwing your money away on getting more leads until you fix your lead conversion rate. Fix your lead conversion rate, fix your funnel, fix your follow-up, and you'll fix your cash flow. Right now, a lot of you are losing so much money, you're leaving so much money on the table because you don't have a follow-up system, you don't know what you're doing with intake, you're not following the best practices. We'd love to help you. We'd love to be a part of that. A great way to do that is to have us start by either giving us a call or going to bit.ly/shop-my-firm, S-H-O-P, my firm, all lowercase, and we'll do a secret shopper call. And then we'll get on the phone with you and we'll share the good, the bad, and the ugly. We'll give you a written report of exactly what we found and some best practices on how to take that to the next level. We'd love to be able to help you out. This is a great opportunity, but like I said, we're going to limit this to 100 people. The first 100 people that jump on that form and fill it out, we'd be glad to help them out. I think we have time for a few questions, Stephanie.
Yes, Stephen, thank you so much. Those are great tips, and hopefully everyone will be able to put those to use right away. For those of you who have to leave us now, please take note of 3 things. MyCase offers a 30-day free trial, and because you attended this webinar today, you get a bonus discount. So please note that promo code there. It's 10LED15, and that will give you your bonus discount after your free 30-day trial. Secondly, when you close your webinar, a 5-question survey will pop up. Please take a moment to answer these survey questions. And for more incentive, we will randomly select 1 lucky survey responder to receive a $50 Amazon gift card. So please take the time to fill out that survey. It'll take you less than a minute. And also, tomorrow you will receive an email with a link to the blog where you will find these slides, the webinar recording, and the Amazon gift card winner. So that's it. I'll wrap that, and I'm going to move on to some of these really great questions. We've got a few here. So Stephen, I'll start out with the first one. In divorce cases, often an initial consultation may be months before someone is ready to file. How do you convert a potential client that may be unreachable for an extended period due to spouse's access to their emails, cell phone, and mail?
Yeah, well, if you limit it and say, well, the spouse has access to the email, to the phone number, and the text messages, then you can't contact them. I mean, that's pretty difficult. And if you are going to do text messages, which I'm a firm believer in, then make sure you get the client's permission, because but you and I both know that you're setting up a hypothetical here, right? Unless there's like real severe abuse going on, chances are pretty good that they have set up an alternative email, or perhaps even a second cell phone number or something like that the spouse doesn't know about, especially if they're trying to get out of a relationship and the spouse is completely unaware that this is coming. So look, people are smart at some level, and so I don't want to set up a false straw man that says, well, I can't contact them, they've told me explicitly not to contact them, and how am I supposed to contact them? Well, you have to respect that person's wishes. But 99% of people are not going to be in that circumstance. They're either going to give you an alternate email, an alternate cell phone number, or call me at work, or whatever it is. But make sure you write that down so that you have permission to send them a text message or permission to call them at work or whatever it is, so that you can track that. And most people fall into the opposite category. They want you to call them back, and you never call them back. You call them back once, maybe twice if you're lucky, and then you forget all about them because you're on to the next lead.
Okay, great. Stephen, next question. I am a solo and don't have staff. Would you recommend a call center over the attorney picking up the phone?
Probably. It depends on your practice area, but in all circumstances, I would say probably. And I'd really have to talk to the person to find out, is this what's their practice area? Are they in litigation a lot? In which case, litigators, the reason why litigators typically don't make great marketers is because they disappear for weeks and weeks at a time. And, to be a good litigator, you put your head down and you prepare for trial, and then you hold the trial, and then after the trial is up, ended or settled, you pick your head up and look around and say, where's the next client? Well, the next client called you 2 weeks ago, and you didn't return their phone call, so they went to somebody else. A lot of attorneys that buy these paper lead companies and pay-per-click, they don't work. They don't get a good return on investment. And it's not because the service is not good, it's because they don't get back to them in a timely fashion. All the best cases go first. All the best cases go first. So if a person knows that they have to hire an attorney and they have the money and they're willing to do it, they're not going to put up with, being out of, they put in a phone call and you get around to contacting them 2 or 3 weeks later. They're not going to put up with that kind of crap. They'll go to somebody who's responsive, because most people are smart enough to think, oh my goodness, if it took them 2 weeks to get back to me while we're still dating, how bad is it going to be after I give them my money and we're married, type of thing. So you have to be responsive. And if you're in a practice area that you're not able to be responsive because you're out of the office for an extended period of time, then your best bet is to have somebody else answering the phone. Now the question is, are you better off having an answering service, a call answering service, or hiring a part-time person? Because guess what? The answering service is, if you figure it out, is probably going to cost you almost the same amount per month as a part-time person that you could have in your office. And again, it doesn't have to be full-time. It could be part-time. It could be $10, $15 an hour with a little kicker, a little performance bonus for every appointment that they set with a qualified prospect who shows up to the appointment, so that you can have an opportunity to close the deal. I hope that helps.
That's great. Thank you. And we'll have time for 1 or 2 more questions. So next question is, you suggest 6 calls minimum to good leads, but how do you prevent looking as if you're trying too hard or looking desperate?
Yeah, that's a very common response that I get from attorneys. Let me just, because you're not the only one that's thinking that. Chances are about a third of the people on the call, even though you're the one that got the question that's in your head. You're the only one who thinks it looks desperate. Everybody else thinks it looks professional, and it thinks it looks like you're persistent. Attorneys, the #1 reason why attorneys are reported to the Bar Association is because of lack of client communication. And do you know who's reported to the Bar Association more often than others? Solo practitioners and small law firms. They get reported to the Bar Association a magnitude of the number of times that the big law do. Why? Because the big law have a bunch of staff that they can throw this problem at and have them call them back. And I understand that, there's a whole lot of difference between being a big law firm and being a solo practitioner. But you have to put systems and people into place in order to make that happen. So I get it, but you will not look desperate if you call them back 6 times. You will look persistent. Now, if you leave a bad voicemail where it's like, please send me your money, I'm almost broke, then of course you're going to look desperate. But nobody's going to be foolish enough to do that. So as long as you leave a professional voicemail, that says, hey, just wanted to reach out, and I understand you probably have some questions. This is a really big decision that you're looking to make, and I'd love to have the opportunity to talk with you. Give us a call back at your earliest convenience. We're here to help you. That type of a very professional voicemail can oftentimes make the difference between hiring and not hiring you and hiring your competition, because they've forgotten that they called you 2 weeks later and you've got to get back to them. You've got to call them multiple times.
Great. Yeah, and there wasn't just one person that asked that. A few people asked that question.
Yep.
Okay, Stephen, our last question. Regarding in-office no-show rates, do you recommend a confirmation call to the lead 24 hours in advance?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I would. It depends on how bad it is. The worst no-show rate I've ever seen was 67%, where literally 2/3 of all appointments were not showing up. That's horrible, right? I want to get it into single digits, and you can do that, and I don't care what your practice area is. I have done that over and over and over and over again with hundreds of different attorneys all across the country to help them get their no-show rate into single digits. So if you're having a struggle with a no-show rate, meaning more than, and here's how I define a problem, more than 2 out of 10 people that you set an appointment with are no-shows, right? Then you have a no-show problem. Call them the day before, call them the day of, send them a text message, send them an email 24 hours before. If you go to the dentist's office or you've taken your kid to the dentist's office in the last couple of years, there's a really good chance you got a call and an email and or a text message 1 or 2 days before. So be aggressive with that. And when I say you, I don't mean you, the attorney. I mean delegate it to your staff person, hopefully your dedicated client intake specialist, who is paid a performance bonus to be able to set that appointment and make sure that the appointment shows up, because if they don't show up, they don't get a performance bonus. And the performance bonus, as I mentioned, is typically 10, 15, maybe 20 bucks. Highest I've ever seen was $25 per appointment. So yes, I do recommend that, and that is something that you can put into practice immediately. Look, you paid for the lead. Focus on why the lead wants your help, and get that appointment in the door, and you'll have a much higher opportunity to close them.
Okay, excellent. Stephen, we're going to wrap this. Perfect. I was going to ask you to put that last slide up there so people have your contact information. I wanted to thank you for presenting today, and for all of those attendees. I'm sure you got a lot out of this today and can put it to use very quickly. So thanks again for attending. The slides and the recap recording will be on the MyCase blog tomorrow. And thanks again, Stephen.
Well, thank you, and I really appreciate the opportunity to present this. And look, I trust that this has been helpful to you. If you had any questions that you wanted to ask me privately, my personal email address is right up there on the screen, Stephen at the Rainmaker Institute. Just make sure you spell it correctly. And I just put MyCase webinar in the subject line, and I'll do my best to get right back to you and provide an answer to you as quickly as I can. Look, intake and lead conversion is a big, big deal. You're spending a lot of money and a lot of time and a lot of effort on generating leads. Now it's time to turn up the volume and convert more of those contacts into contracts and turn more prospects into paying clients. Love to help you out if I can.
Great. Thanks, Stephen. Goodbye, everyone.